What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, Scott DeLong with the CEO Podcast. I'm here as always with my partner, Vince Moiso. We're on episode 99 right now. It's kind of cool that we've gotten this far. 5 seasons, and they haven't all been consistent. We've had 25 and 18, but with episode 99, we're going to close season 5 with episode 100. And I've had a lot of fun doing this. One, because I get a chance to talk to my friend here. We don't always get together as often as I'd like to. But the other is that as we age, right, as we get a little bit older, get a little more white hair, one of the things that's really important to older generations is really giving back. It's like helping the younger generations out. And that is, 15 years ago, I didn't think much about it. Now I'm thinking about that, is to say, well, if I have experience and hopefully wisdom that comes with that experience, but that's not always the case, right? What is it that I can do to help kids and grandkids and the people that work in my businesses for that as well. And so that's kind of the basis for this conversation that we're going to have. We're getting a lot of press lately on working with a multi-generational workforce, right? How to manage that. And I don't like to use the word manage. I like the word lead. Like there's a difference, right? I grew up in an area where we were managed. And that's not great. It's not a great place to grow up, right? It taught me the things that they wanted me to know, but it didn't give me the ability to think for myself. So I like the word leadership better. So how do you lead a multi-generational workforce? Yeah. This came about because there have been a lot of people, and a lot of people in the press. We've got an article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about this, that people just want to bag on Gen Zs. These young people, they don't have a work ethic, and they don't have any loyalty, and they don't care about this, and they don't care about that. And what are we going to do now? Well, my answer was really simple. What we need to do is learn from them. Right? We need to learn what it is that they know, because they know a lot of different things than we know, certainly. That same day that I got my first interview, I was struggling with my computer. And my first thought was, I need a kid. I need somebody young to help me with this thing, because technology is moving so fast, some of the older generation is not keeping up. Now, there's some advantages and things that I can teach them as well, as long as we, what I'm going to call, bridge those gaps, right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about some of your experiences working with the multi-generation, because you do, right? Actually both your businesses.
Absolutely do. And I would say though, and you and I have talked about this on several podcasts before. And I think, look, you got to be, if you want to be a coach, if you want to be a manager, if you want to be a leader in any way, you got to figure out how to lead people. You got to lead people. It's not, it doesn't say, oh, I'm only going to teach you how to lead one style of person. No, you have to understand that, look, the age demographic is a huge thing. The environment in which they were raised and the style of personality. It's just why
the style, how they were raised is completely different than how we were raised. Different. And the circumstances that happened to them while they're being, COVID, for instance.
Well, and therefore that, different groups are going to have different expectations coming into the workforce. And as a leader, you have to have the ability to adapt to those different personality types and actually lead. That's the simplest thing I can say. Above and beyond that is, look, you want diversity in the workforce.
There you go. I like the word diversity.
You want diversity. You want equity in the workforce, right? You want that. You want to create
and inclusion. So DEI, the whole DEI.
You do, and you want a culture. We've talked a lot about. We've had episodes dedicated to talking about culture, Scott, and culture and communication. And again, if you start to incorporate these types of things, then, in my opinion, the generational gaps are a non-issue. So if you are communicating at an incredibly high level, if your culture is such that it's inclusive, right? Then the generational gap is a non-issue.
What's the problem? So I pushed back. I got an interview on TV the other day, and the interview said, "Well, how come a one-size-all-fit approach?" It was trying to lead me into something, and I said, "No, one-size-all approach does work if you go deep enough with the one-size-all, and that is communication, which is communicate in a language that the receiver is going to understand. Now, that language may differ between generations, and it's incumbent upon me to be the communicator that can speak those different languages, that can understand what their needs are, what their wants and their needs are, what their expectations are, explain what my expectations might be as well, and see where we can come together for that. So one-size-all-fit approach, absolutely, as long as that one size is better communication.
Well, we've talked about it. We've talked about it before. So let's just talk about communication for a second.
Sure.
And as if I'm leading a group and I've got a multi-generational group in front of me, okay. So I'm going to take your example, the one size fits all approach. Well, after I'm done giving direction, I'm going to say, hey, can a few of you repeat what you heard?
Tell me what our next steps might be.
Tell me what our next steps might be. So I just want to make sure that we're all completely aligned with what we're talking about here. And so you're gonna ask for that type of feedback. And when you get that feedback, oh, you know what? That's on me. I didn't articulate it in the best way. So let me rephrase that a little bit. And you go through it again until you get alignment. I mean, again, it's just like, it just boils down to the simplest of simple communication styles and approaches. And again, if you've got a culture that is dedicated to that level of communication, I'll say it again, the generational gap should be a non-issue.
Generational gap should be a non-issue, and I hope I don't say this improperly, we need to take advantage of what it is that the different generations know and what they know. I was just talking to Vince earlier about, say, okay, listen, if millennials and Gen Zs, which are a couple generations away from where I am, are 55% of our current workforce, extrapolate that and say they're probably 55% of our customer base as well. Do you really want me, a 64-year-old man, making all the decisions, making all of the thought process on what our new products and services should be for the future? I don't think so.
No.
We need to find out from them what matters to them, because they're not just our current workforce, they're not just our current customer, they are our future, and they are.
Well, I like the way that you put it earlier when we were talking, Scott, is that ultimately, you've got a mixed workforce, right? So you could have 4 different generations that we're talking about that are potentially working for your business. And if we talk about Gen Z as the example that you brought up, that is, if they're in your workforce, they're your customer base.
That's right.
You should be listening. Right? You should be listening.
Isn't that part of the communication process?
It is.
Listening,
just
the other half of that.
Just listen. Yeah. And look, I'm going to go back to the culture piece for a second. Scott, you're going to be really proud of this because I haven't mentioned this to you yet. Psychological safety is incredibly important in the workforce. Guess what book my sales team is currently reading?
So it could be one of 2 that I've recommended, right? One could be the Fearless Organization.
That's it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so that's the one that we're currently reading, and I think we're halfway through the book at this point. Right. But I love that they're reading it, right? Because you and I and as a leadership team, we read that book together with you, and that was really great. Each week we were going through the very specific topics, and we've implemented so much of that to create a very safe environment. And so it's really great to have the team now reading it and understanding the concept of it.
Bringing it in themselves.
Yeah, bringing it in, and now they have this expectation of it. So again, that's exclusive of generation, right? Like it's just, hey, we're committed to having a psychologically safe environment and safe culture, period, right? And that's it.
So there's the other book that I was going to mention is by Dr. Timothy Clark. It's called The 4 Stages of Psychological Safety. Yeah. And the first stage is inclusion. Yeah. That when we walk into a room, we welcome people into the room. It's as simple as that, right? Make them feel that they're welcome and that they're able to speak, right?
And then you feel safe, and you feel safe to, and then what does the author say? Is like that bolsters ideas and creativity, and gets people talking, which grows companies and creates and grows.
So let me go through those 4 stages real quick. So the first one is inclusion. The second one is the ability to ask questions. The question, I don't understand something. The next one is the contributor safety, being able to say, hey, well, that's interesting. I've got an idea. What about this? Right? And the fourth one is the challenger. Vince, I'm not sure we should go in that direction. Like, let's rethink that. Or in this case, with your leadership team, or not just your leadership team, but the people that are reading the book right now, they have the ability now and the tools now to challenge you when you have made things less safe. And they should have that ability, right? Here's our standards. Wait, you're not holding up to those right now. You made me feel bad. And listen, I know there's a whole thing with this, people talking about the Gen Z saying, oh, we have to have this safe environment, and there's all flowers and this soft cotton approach to everything. And yeah, why not? Why not make it safe for people? Why not allow them to feel comfortable to be able to challenge me, to be able to contribute, to be able to question, and to be able to feel inclusive? Like, those 4 stages are really important.
Well, you have to have the ability to adapt. So as any organization, as your workforce changes and gets younger, you have to adapt. I mean, you just have to adapt your business. So you can't keep doing the same thing, and then all of a sudden you have a different workforce and expect that they're just going to acquiesce. Let me use this analogy.
Okay.
The greatest football coaches, if you haven't watched Dynasty, which is the documentary on the New England Patriots, which is on Apple TV. So you take Bill Belichick and you take the Patriots, and the reason that they were a dynasty, the reason is Bill, and what made him such a good coach is he adapted to the players. Yeah. He didn't have a single offense or a single defense that he ran and expected the players to adapt to it.
In this scenario, the one thing that I don't think he did adapt to as well to is the personality. He adapted to their skill sets, but to the personalities, it was like, I was just watching the
Well, the culture was the culture. It was all about the team. It was all about the Patriots, all of that. So they called it the Patriot way. So you were either going to buy into the Patriot way or you weren't. Or you're out. But that, to me, that's true of businesses. So businesses can have a culture, and they can have that inclusivity and the equity and the diversity, all of those types of things that you can build in your culture. But you should be hiring people that, one, are bought into the culture, and then you adapt to the skill set that anybody has within your business. My point being is that your ability as a leader to adapt is equally important to all those other soft skills that we were just talking about. And the last piece that I would bring up is this: is that you're a leader. You've got generational differences within your workforce, right? Develop. We talk about this. Yeah. It's a very, very key word, development. And you even alluded to it earlier when we were just talking off camera, which is develop humans. Yeah. Develop people skills. Develop people to be better people. And if you're focused on development, then the productivity that you're going to get from any generation is going to be through the roof. Now, you still need to train on skills. There are certain skills that need to be, but if you are committed to developing people as better humans, as better people, then again, the generational gap doesn't matter.
I agree with that. So when you use the word develop, I was thinking, well, we have a group of, in fact, old school leaders who think, oh, training. You can look at developing these soft skills that we're talking about, communication, building trust, inclusivity, all those kind of things, as a skill set as well. So don't just think because it's a soft skill, it's still not training. If you believe that you need to train, great. Go ahead and train some of these soft skills as well, which is the point of what we call development.
Well, and the difference in what you're talking about, though, those soft skills transition into life. So it allows you to build a better relationship at home with your family, with your kids, with your siblings, with your parents, whatever that might be. But those soft skills transfer. And shoot, like reality is, as much as I'd love for the talent that comes through the business to just be loyal and stick with us for the rest of their career, reality is they're going to grow beyond what we can offer them as a business, and they're going to have to go on to another business.
Sure.
If I've done my job right as a leader, then I've passed on somebody who's better than when they got to me.
So you brought on a good point, though, because one of the complaints that I was hearing about the Gen Z is that they don't have any loyalty, they don't stick around. But I can tell you this for a fact, that if in fact we create a space where these people feel welcome and that they're contributing and that we're paying them fairly and we're developing them, you are going to be able to keep them much longer than you could otherwise. There is no reason for a happy person that's growing in their career to even be looking for jobs. Well, I think we talked about this before once when we were talking about the high turnover rates, and the studies suggest this. If you have a happy employee, it takes a 30% bump in salary for them to consider taking another job. The 10% things and the whatever, I'm going to make 10% more. People don't leave if they're happy, right? And why are they happy? They're happy because you care about them. There's a word that doesn't always happen in the business world, care, right? Showing care for people.
Yep.
Care with and for your people is the key to longevity with them. And the care depends on what it is that they're looking for and what they need. For some, it might be a one-on-one conversation. For others, it might be some time that they can go spend with their family. For others, it might be a developmental process where they can become the next job, right? How are we going to develop my skills? But understanding that these people are all human beings, they're all individuals, and they all have individual needs. And that's where the one-size-all approach doesn't work. If we want to treat everybody equally, right? Vince used a good word earlier, and he talked about equity. There's a big difference between equity and equality.
Yeah, for sure.
And equity is the one we're going for. What's important to them and treating people fairly.
Well, so back to this topic that you're talking about, where someone might cite that your Gen Z are quick to leave, they're not loyal, right? And so you've got this massive amount of attrition that happens, especially with small business. I would argue it has nothing to do with Gen Z. I don't think it has anything to do with that generation. I think it has everything to do with the business and the business leaders. And on top of what you said, which is obviously creating that safe, psychologically safe environment, and where they're happy in their role and recognized for the performance that they achieve, I think all of those things are important. And they desire to have a clear growth path.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things that misses. It misses in small business tremendously because there often isn't a clear growth path.
We don't know what it is, so therefore how can we transfer that? That's real. So, but there's solutions to that as well. If there's not a career growth path that I can identify as the leader of a small business, what I want to do then is expose these younger people to a broader range of things and see what piques their interest. And then maybe the career path shows up for us as it does for them.
What I've done successfully, and I think every small business should consider this too, is that when you don't have a clear growth path for somebody into leadership position or whatever it is, you got to have initially that conversation with a talented employee. So if there's somebody that you want to stick around for a while, ask them what they want. Ask them what growth looks like for them. And you'll be surprised at the answers that you get. They're going to give you some very, very highly intelligent and clear answers. And my answer has been, when I ask those questions, great, let's create that. How do we create that together? I want to make that happen for you, and I'd like to make it happen here. How do we create that together? I need you to help me identify a growth path for you.
And if we can't, if we're being the kind of leaders that we talk about becoming, if we can't create that growth path for them, be upfront and honest with them and let them know this might not be the right spot, but let me help you get to their next spot, right? And that will pay dividends in the long run as well, not only for yourself personally and make you feeling better about yourself as a leader, but that person's going to tell one of their friends, you know, I worked for a great company. They didn't have the right job for me, but you might want to go consider working for Vince.
Absolutely.
Right?
But it's such a false expectation. And it's funny how many business owners that I still talk to that have this expectation that someone's going to come work for them for 30 years. Like, it's insane. I mean, it's totally false expectation. I mean, I don't even know why, or the attitude of you're with me or you're against me. What?
Well, that attitude's the wrong.
I mean, what? Really? Are you
If I can keep somebody for 30 years, someone that I want, I'm going to do what I can to do that.
100%.
But that other piece that you're either with me or against me, I had an experience like that when I was young and growing, and I needed to do what I needed to do for myself and my family.
Yeah.
And my boss, who was like a father to me, right, couldn't provide me what I needed, was so pissed at me that I lost a relationship over it. It's like, what a waste.
It's
What a waste.
It's really silly. It should be celebrated because you think about if somebody's moving on to another company, to a bigger, better position, whatever that might look like, it's because of you.
Yeah,
it's
I
because,
don't forget that.
yeah, I
I
mean,
take
you know,
pride in that.
you're the one that helped that person get there, and you should celebrate it. It's not a problem. They're doing what's right for them. And they should be taking care of number one, which is, you know, exactly as you put it, you had to do what was best for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And that should always be the case. So I think having this false expectation that that you hire somebody and then that all of a sudden they're obligated to be with you for the rest of their work lives is just insane.
So let's circle back on this multi-generational workforce. And I liked what you said, or how you said it much better than I did, is that it's a fallacy that it's a problem. It's not. It's just another form of diversity. And we've all agreed that diversity is good for us.
Great way to
right?
put it. Yeah.
So guys, if you're having that problem, guys and gals, if you're having that problem and you think that there's a problem with a multi-generational workforce, the best solution that I can offer is talk to them, communicate with them, and not just talk at them, but listen to them. Asking better questions is going to get you better answers. Understanding who the people are that are working for you is going to get more for you from them. Take the time.
I'd bring it home and just say, check your culture.
There you go.
Check your culture. Take a survey on the level of communication, rank it 1 to 10, and find out from your employees how communication ranks within your organization and how your culture ranks. Check your culture. Because I think, again, if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I have a problem with this multi-generational workforce that I have, I think point the finger inward first before you point it outward. So check your culture. I think the best way to do that is do a survey of communication and culture out there and have it ranked. And you'll find out really quickly where you sit. And then you find out, then you can start asking
Maybe if you have this place of psychological safety, can I bring up an anecdote really quick here?
Yeah.
Before we close? There's a great operating system out there that's being widely used, EOS. We've had people on talking about it before, right? And they've got some rules that they do at the end of a meeting. You're supposed to rate a meeting from a 1 to a 10. If you rate it underneath an 8, you have to say why you think it should have been better. If you say 7 or lower, you have to tell why. I've been in meetings recently where people are using EOS, and they're misusing it is the problem. EOS is a good system, don't get me wrong. They're misusing it because all of their people are saying 8, 8, 8, 8, because they don't want to have to talk about why it's a 6 or a 7. And there's only one reason.
Probably because they're afraid.
There's only one reason, because of lack of psychological safety in that room. They don't want to speak up because they fear the repercussion for speaking up. So if you're going to use a rating system, you have to have the psychological safety built in first so that people can be honest with you and that you can take the critique, that you can take the criticism so that you can make your meetings better.
We rank our communication in every single monthly meeting that we have, and regardless of how you rank it, you have to say why.
Good.
So whether you rank it at a 5, a 6, a 7, or a 10, you gotta say why you ranked it at that. Like what's driving you to say that it's a 10? What's driving you to say that it's a 6?
Yeah, great.
So then everyone's safe, right? Because you're gonna have to say it anyways. But yeah, it's a great anecdote. But again, it just goes back to check your culture.
Yep.
Do you have a psychologically safe culture? If you do, then in my opinion, the generational gap is a non-issue.
Good. Let's go with that. Make sure your generational gap is a non-issue and you take advantage of all the information that's available by generation. Those of us that have a little more experience, teach those younger people what we know, and the rest of us ask the questions so that we can know more.
Yeah.
Really simple.
You got it.
Hey folks, episode 99. We are finished with this one. We got one more before we close out season 5.
Yeah.
Hopefully stay with us 2 weeks from now. We really want to thank you for staying with us this long. We really appreciate it. It's been
Thanks for listening.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net, where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.